It's going to be a bumpy night.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you. You ain't heard nothing.
So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to the David Pollack Show. I'm not as excited or energetic as I usually am today because, honestly, I don't even know what to think anymore. Over the weekend, we had the first ever attack directly from Iran on Israel. Today, this morning, there's jury selection going on in New York City in Alvin Bragg's nothing but political case against Donald Trump. It's tax day, and nobody's happy about that. I mean, it was slow for a couple of weeks, but today I just don't know. I'm trying to stay positive and energetic for you guys. But man, it can be overwhelming sometimes. And today is one of those overwhelming days because as the left is giddy, celebrating Donald Trump being indicted on just nonsense and actually having that trial move forward. And the day is here and they can't help themselves. The Stormy Daniels hush money case. And they just can't help themselves. There is serious things going on in this world. We are on the brink of and I know people say this, and it seems inflammatory, but guys, the Middle East is on a hair right now, a hair that's holding peace together, and this is a conflict between countries that have the ability to really cause a lot of destruction and damage in the middle and spread over to the rest of the world. Our southern border is wide open. We know for a fact that there are people in this country that don't belong here, that don't like America, that can be activated by some of the players here. You have Hezbollah, you have the Houthis in Yemen, not to mention Iran itself. I mean, what's going on in the Middle East? The media is trying to be like, oh, well, it's good. They shot down all the ballistic missiles and drones. 99.9% of them were shot down. So, there's nothing to really be upset about. Iran, right? Just sent hundreds of drones and missiles into Israel, a sovereign country, an ally of the United States. Iran, a barrage of weapons into Israel that if they hadn't been shot down, they would have killed. People did die, by the way. The media's not going to tell you. People did die from these attacks. Not all of the missiles were shot down. Iran attacked Israel over the weekend. The United States military in Jordan had to help Israel just fend off this attack. And what are we talking about today? A porn star in New York? Seriously? This is what's dominating the media cycle? And Congress are talking about sending money to Ukraine? Seriously? What's going on in Ukraine? What's the left all upset about? The fact that Russia went into Ukraine and attacked them. So we want to send all this money to Ukraine. Iran, one of America's biggest enemies, the largest state supporter of terror, just attacked Israel. And instead of just talking about sending money to Israel, which they are, by the way, they want to lump it together with money for Ukraine. What in the world is wrong with these people? So, yes, I'm trying to be composed for you guys today. But honestly, I just don't know what to think anymore. Do the people in charge of this government, the people in charge of this country, do they hate Donald Trump so much? Are they so afraid of Donald Trump because of all the BS that they've been able to get away with and are so worried that they'll be held accountable for it? Are they so afraid of their political society, their fragile political establishment being upset by somebody who didn't play by their rules, that they're willing to go along with what is happening right now? That they're just going to allow what's going on in New York to happen for the leading, literally the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party, the likely next president of the United States based on polling, regardless of what the fake news is telling you about polling tightening, which is garbage. We know that's garbage. You can look for yourself. So the likely next president of the United States is in New York City this morning. Instead of being engaged in what's going on around the world, he's in New York City answering to a crooked prosecutor and a crooked attorney general that ran on the basis of locking Trump in jail. Like this is some kind of third world freaking country. Yet we're going to talk about jury selection today. Like this is normal. Like he robbed a 7-Eleven or something. We're trying to pick a jury in a city full of people that hate Trump, not his peers. No fair trial. He's not going to have an impartial jury. Nobody thinks that's going to be the case. If this was even a portion of a fair trial, it would have been thrown out weeks ago. It would have been dismissed. What they're trying to charge him for isn't even a crime. And you're going to hear about that. We're going to talk about this later on, about the specifics of the legal case. Why? Because you're curious about what's going on. We'll pretend that this is legitimate just long enough to have a legal discussion on it. But this is nothing more than election interference. As Trump said, it's a case that never should have been brought. Here's Trump this morning outside of the fake trial in New York City. Check it out.
Anything like this has never happened before. There's never been anything like it. Every legal scholar said this case is nonsense. It should never have been brought. It doesn't deserve anything like this. There is no case, and they've said it. People that don't necessarily follow or like Donald Trump said this is an outrage that this case was brought. This is political persecution. This is a persecution like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And again, it's a case that should have never been brought. It's an assault on America. And that's why I'm very proud to be here. This is an assault on our country. And it's a country that's failing. It's a country that's run by an incompetent man who's very much involved in this case. This is really an attack on a political opponent. That's all it is. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much.
And he's right. I don't even know what to say. Honestly, I don't even know what to say about any of this anymore. He's not going to, for all of you who are hopeful that Trump's going to be found not guilty on this, because you're going to say, how can he be found not guilty? Or how can he be found guilty of something that isn't a crime? How can he be found guilty of something that is so politically motivated? How can he be found guilty by a jury that's so clearly biased, by a judge that's so clearly biased? There's no way Trump can get convicted of this. Trump has a very good chance of being convicted because this isn't a real criminal proceeding. They're not there to give Trump a fair trial. They're there to create a narrative to hurt Trump in the general election against Joe Biden. If you don't believe me, then why are prosecutors trying to show an Access Hollywood tape when Trump said something about grabbing people in an inappropriate place that they tried to get him with the October surprise from 2016. Why would the prosecutors in this case want to even show that to a jury? There's nothing to do with Stormy Daniels. By the way, she's not a porn star. Let's just get over that right away. She was a porn actress, okay? But this idea that she's some kind of porn celebrity, let's just put that out. That just gives her more credibility than she even deserves, okay? But regardless, one has nothing to do with the other, but they're trying to relitigate something that's already been out there in the public world. They're trying to paint this picture that Trump's a bad guy, because none of this has to do with actually what they're charging him about. Just look at the way they're talking and setting this thing up in the media. A trial over hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. This has nothing to do with hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Nothing. Has to do with allegedly misentering what the payment was on a ledger. And then they tried to enhance it to a felony, which just wouldn't be a felony, on an underlying crime that doesn't exist. Legally, Trump shouldn't have ever been charged. And yet here he is, picking a jury. Yes, this conviction will, if he's convicted, will be overturned on appeal because the basis of it is so incredibly flawed in the basis of law. And you're going to hear lots of smart people, lots of legal scholars tell you about all the reasons why this case is awful. The only thing that matters is that they want to put Trump in jail, just like Fani Willis and her corrupt and fired special prosecutor in New York, just like Jack Smith and his investigation on classified documents that Trump was allowed to possess, or this case in Washington, D.C. about an insurrection that didn't even exist. We are not dealing in the realm of law anymore. We're dealing in the realm of politics, and worse than politics, political corruption. So we're going to talk about this tonight with my good friend David Gelman, former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, and Trump surrogate. He's going to give us all the information about that. But later in the show, we're also going to be joined by General Flynn. That's right. General Flynn is coming to the David Pollack Show to talk about his experience with this quote unquote legal system, the lawfare, the political prosecutions, because he was a target of it first. And we all know what happened to General Flynn. And there's a new movie out where he talks about it. It's a great movie. You need to go and see it. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But joining me now is David Gelman. He is a criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, and now Trump surrogate. And I'm really excited to have you on the show today. Welcome to the show, David.
Dave, thanks for having me. That's a long title right there.
There have been guests with longer titles. Sometimes I have to have a notepad in front of me where I'm like, okay, this person does a lot of things. But I mean, that's still a very impressive resume. And I'm excited to have you here today, not only because Trump's on trial, but because the trial itself, it's capturing everybody's minds today. Imagine this. We have a historical attack on Iran, or on Israel from Iran. First time ever Iran has directly attacked Israel, right? Yep. And today, instead of talking about that, we're talking about the first time ever in history that the president, a former president, any president of the United States, actually, has been indicted in state court here. And in this case, probably one of the weakest cases, novel charges, never tried at this level before. And now he's the front runner of the Republican Party. I mean, this is just, I don't think it can get any crazier in 2024, but I don't need any hold my beer, watch this moments, because I'm surprised every single day. That being said, I want to talk about first what's happening today, because for people who don't know, like trial, they're expecting like Law and Order. They're expecting, people to show up, make dramatic arguments with violin music playing in the background. And okay, he's guilty, not guilty, it's over. But trials don't work like that, right? Today is jury selection. So can you explain to the viewers what is happening today in New York City besides a miscarriage of justice?
Of course. And also, I want to remind you, it's also tax day. So you got everything today.
Yeah, I was trying to forget. That's right. And it's tax day, and not to get now you're going to get me tangential. It's tax day, and even though Israel's being attacked by Iran, they're talking about sending money to Ukraine. So all that tax money that you're scrambling to pay, Republicans in Washington are really interested in sending to Ukraine for you. But yes, back to New York City. So now this is jury selection. What is happening today in New York?
Yeah, so you're right, Matt. Today is not going to be the big dog and pony show, although it already starting to look like that. But today is what they call jury selection, and what they do is there's called a process called voir dire. And so what the defense and the prosecutor have to do is agree to a jury. And in a jury, there's 12 people that are all New York City residents, and then you have 6 alternates. So if somebody's sick or can't do it, has to go on vacation, they have six alternates to step in, if you will. Now, you would think this would be kind of easy, right? To pick 6 or 12 jurors and 6 alternates. Well, this jury selection is probably going to take weeks, not days, not a week, weeks. All right. And the reason being is, number one, where is this being held? New York City. So how is New York City voting a lot of the times? Well, they're really not voting for Donald Trump, a lot of them, because most of these people are liberals. And a lot of these people probably already have preconceived notions of what they want to do. So you're going to have multiple sets of jurors that are going to be set that the prosecutor or Trump's defense team are going to say, no, you know what? We don't want them. So they got to get a whole new jury pool. This is going to happen multiple times over a multiple weeks. And all these jurors are going to be having to answer all these questions. What do you do for a living? Where do you live? How did you vote? How do you know about this? And that is where it's all going to really come down to the nitty gritty, if you will, because what's going to happen is prosecutor's not going to like for some of these answers. And if I'm Trump's defense team, they're probably not going to like most of these individuals. So it's going to take a long time to weed out everybody. And also, you got to remember, there's going to be some people that probably have a misconception about the case that are probably either trying to get Trump or, in the alternative, not trying to get Trump and, want to have him innocent. So you're trying to find 12 impartial jurors. I mean, it's going to be next to impossible to do this. But Trump has a great legal team. This is a terrible case, which I'm sure we'll be talking about soon. So, in a couple of weeks, it's going to be go time.
Yeah. So jury selection, I mean, there's so many problems with this. And we'll talk about what he's actually being charged with and why it makes no sense. Because I know today people have been talking about the underlying charges, talking about statute of limitations. If anybody's been watching coverage today, they've seen all of that. And we'll get to that because it's still important. But jury selection in and of itself. So the Constitution gives people the right to an impartial jury. Yep. You cannot have an impartial jury if you're Donald Trump. Now, with normal criminal defendants, if a high-profile person was charged in a jurisdiction, ordinarily they would ask the case to be removed to another jurisdiction because the odds of being able to get an unbiased or a jury pool would be challenging. So they move them to places, when you have these high-profile cases. There's no venue in the entire country where they don't know Donald Trump. Now, you can probably shop a venue where you might find a more favorable jury pool. But I don't see how somebody like Donald Trump can have a fair trial or an impartial jury, I should say, anywhere. Because no matter what, every juror is going to have a preconceived notion of who they think Donald Trump is based on fake news. They're going to want to be on that jury. And I know they're not releasing jurors' names or using numbers. But the second the gavel drops on this trial, you're going to see jurors lining up for book deals, for TV interviews. Do you know you're going to be any one of these 12 jurors will immediately have the chance to become a millionaire if they choose because of the profile of this trial. Not only that, you have the ability to affect history. There's so many problems with the trial occurring now. Now, fine. If you want to make the argument that you're not going to try him because he can't get a jury, you can delay it until after the election. Or if he becomes president, you delay it until after he's president. If you really are concerned, because honestly, it's not like these charges, and we'll talk about the charges in a second. It's not like these charges, it's not like we're keeping a dangerous felon out on the street like they do with the illegal aliens that they're running across New York committing crime. Here's a very high-profile person who's surrounded by Secret Service. The idea that they need to put him in jail for even what they're alleging, and that, by the way, nobody's ever been, maybe somebody has, but it's very unusual for somebody to be put in jail for the charge that he's being, for the crime he's being charged with. So what is the rush? He's not going to have a fair trial on this particular thing. So what do you think? Is there any possibility that Donald Trump can even have an impartial jury?
Look, it's going to be very difficult. The defense team has argued multiple times to get this matter out of New York City, the largest city in the world, and also one of the most liberal cities in the world. So, yeah, are they going to get an impartial jury? It's going to be pretty damn difficult, honestly. Now, if the DA, Bragg, if he was so convinced that this is a slam dunk case, this is a great case, they have all the proof in the world, what is he so afraid of? Why doesn't he consent to it having moved to upstate New York, where I think it'd be a little more palatable for Donald Trump's legal team and for Donald Trump himself? You know, that's New York City is a whole mess of it in itself, all right? Frankly, obviously, this shouldn't even be going to trial, or at least Donald Trump should have never even been charged. But now that he is, New York City is the last place that you're going to get a jury that is going to be sympathetic and just willing to listen to the actual facts in the case. Because once you hear the facts, there's nothing happening here. There's nothing wrong. And then you have a DA who is pretty much taking the Biden campaign talking points, and this is exactly why he's doing this, why he indicted Donald Trump, because he is trying to stop Donald Trump from becoming the president again, because they are scared of what is going to happen. Hell, he even campaigned on this. And the beauty is, Bragg, he originally said, no, I don't want to charge Donald Trump. I'm not going to proceed with this. But he did it anyway after some individuals who worked in his office quit, and one of them wrote a book about this. It's totally ridiculous. I mean, if you were on another planet and we told somebody this, they would look at us like we're the aliens. It's mind-boggling what is going on today, April 15th, 2024, to the President of the United States.
It's insane. And let's talk about those facts, because people have heard it throughout the day, but it's important to go through. I mean, what they're alleging. Now, if you watch the media is going to say felony hush money case. I mean, that's all they're talking. Hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Not even her real name, by the way. Her real name is out there. But the fact that the media keeps wanting to use her porn star name tells you what they're up, what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make it hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels. This is the narrative. But what's the reality? What's the facts? What is this case? What is the facts on this case? So just so the people who are not watching the fake news or watching this show because they actually care about the truth, what is really going on here?
Look, number one, this is not a hush money case. I know the media loves saying this. Yeah. Hush money this, hush money that. It's not hush money. You know what this is? This is an individual. This is a clerical error, if anything. And it's not even an error. What happened was, after Donald Trump was elected, and while he was the president of the United States, or sitting president, there was a bookkeeper in the Trump organization, just some woman who's worked there for many years. And she wrote a check to Michael Cohen, that brilliant attorney of his. And it said in there, legal fees. That's exactly what it was. It was for $425,000. And there's not an error there, because out of that $425,000, Michael Cohen took it upon himself to pay Stormy Daniels, all right, the ex-porn star. So where exactly is the crime? There is no crime. You had an individual who wrote a check and marked it in the ledger as legal services, as a retainer. And here's the beauty. That's correct. There is nothing wrong, because it was, in fact, legal services. I mean, when individuals write me checks and all, that's exactly how you put it. So you have all that part. Now, think about this for a second. Guess who the star witness is? Michael Cohen.
Right.
So would you or any of your viewers, would anybody trust Michael Cohen to make an important decision on their lives right now after finding out what he's done, how he's lied on his taxes, how he is disbarred by New York City, or by the state of New York, and he has no bar license anymore, how he has literally gone against any attorney-client privilege that existed, and he was in prison. And then just recently, a judge reprimanded him. So are you going to trust this individual who's a star witness? I mean, again, it just shows how the case is being brought up and what the lack of evidence, and frankly, just how weak it is. I mean, this is a total mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, and I want to go a little bit further into the technical parts of this case, and then I want to get back to something you just mentioned because it was important. But the case, you said it's not a hush money case. What the way they're trying to sell it, and the way the prosecutors are going to try to sell it to this jury, was that Trump was trying to basically, they always try to tie it to interfering with an election, right? And what they're trying to say is he wanted this story silenced. They're trying to call it a campaign contribution, which it isn't, because it can't be. It doesn't fall into that category. Then they're trying to suggest that basically the records were falsified in order to keep this from the media from finding out about it, which they wouldn't have even if it was a campaign contribution, because it wouldn't have been reported until after the election. So none of this is actually consistent with the narrative, not to mention that the underlying crime that makes this a felony isn't a crime. So can you talk a little bit about why this is even ridiculous from a legal standpoint?
Well, number one, remember, if you wanted to charge the president or anybody for that matter with something like this is a misdemeanor, okay? Where it's a fine, it's a slap on the wrist. And the statutes of limitations have already went way past it. So he should have never been charged. But what happened is the Bragg, making this a political event now, and a political persecution, if you will, said, you know what? No, we're going to actually charge Donald Trump with a felony, and not just one felony, 34 felonies from one single act that he never did. So we all got to remember that he had nothing to do with this. It was a woman who worked for the Trump organization who wrote a check to Michael Cohen and wrote it as legal services. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, did Michael Cohen pay Stormy Daniels? Yes, he did. Do we know why he did that? No, we don't. And does it matter? No, it doesn't, because there's no campaign violation, number one, because it's not a campaign contribution. But number two, there was no wrongdoing. Donald Trump was already in office. So you can't say, oh, well, he was, trying to evade any payments by showing this in the ledger and all. No, he was already in office. The election already occurred. So this is such a mind-boggling experience right now that is happening in the legal community that anybody who went to law school, or even, frankly, you don't even have to go to law school. If you have half a brain and you are just objective enough to see what's going on, you are going to see that all this is D.A. Bragg taking talking points from the Biden administration because it's good for their campaign, because they can say, hey, Donald Trump now is being charged with this, and he's indicted on this, and he's in court every day, while Joe Biden and everybody else, all the surrogates, are going out across the country and talking about this. It's total ridiculousness, in my opinion, and all it is, it's election interference.
Well, that's exactly what all of this is. Every one of these prosecutors, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, Fannie, they all say in there when they were running for office, they all said the same thing. I'm running to get Trump. I'm going to get Trump. I'm going to put him behind bars. This is what they ran on. So the fact that anybody is sitting here saying, oh, this is nothing but, you can't argue that it's nothing but election interference, because this is what they said they were going to do. And the reality is, if Trump wasn't running for president right now, none of this would even be happening. They're doing this to stop Trump. They timed it to stop Trump. We all know that. Now, the interesting thing is, now, I'm sure everybody's listening to us right now, so especially all the great legal opinions you're offering, right? They're all like, well, wait a second. If it's not a case and he didn't do anything, how is this even going to trial? Why isn't it being dismissed? And, and on that same note, prosecutors were trying to show that Access Hollywood video where Trump's talking about grabbing people, whatever. They tried to hurt him with in the 2016 election and didn't do anything. This is nothing more than a character assassination. Now we have everybody's wondering, why is this thing going to trial? Why is why isn't it dismissed? How can this thing move forward with all of these fatal legal flaws? How are we even at a trial and not having this thing gone months ago? How are we here?
Well, the main reason why it's going to trial right now is because Donald Trump is a fighter, plain and simple. You're throwing false accusations at him, and all he is doing is fighting. Remember, you're innocent until proven guilty in this country. Although lately it doesn't seem like that due to all the political prosecutions that are going on right now. But he is a fighter. All right. He is saying to them, look, this is all BS. These charges are false. I know exactly what you're doing. You're trying to make me so I cannot go campaign and I cannot win the presidency. But he doesn't care. He's fighting anyway, and that's exactly why this has not gotten dismissed, or a plea happened. Now, the reason it's really not, they're also not dismissing it, is because can you imagine if you indict the president of the United States by saying, hey, I have all this evidence that is here, and they don't, but then they're going to say, oh, you know what, we lied, we're going to dismiss it. They're not going to have egg on their face. They know that they're going to go down in a blaze of glory. Just when that's the key question. When are they going to do that? Is it going to be now? Is it going to be in the appeal process? But there are so many things that have happened between this not being in upstate New York that the charges itself are total bogus, total baloney. And then you have a judge who, let's just say, is less than fair, less than impartial due to the fact that, I don't know, he has a daughter who is going to have a financial interest if Donald Trump is convicted.
Yeah, even that judge today, there was a story out saying that Trump asked to not have the trial date on his son's graduation. And he's like, well, he hasn't decided if he's going to let Trump go to his son's graduation. I mean, that's how spiteful and angry and hateful these are. This isn't justice. And that is, I think, as a lawyer, and I think this is what frustrates everybody. You talk about, it doesn't even need to be a lawyer, half a brain. Nothing that's happening here. And we could sit here and talk about the facts. We could talk about the facts of the case and how it's a trial and not a trial, or why it's not dismissed, why we're going to trial. We could talk about all of that. But at the end of the day, this is all political. And when we try to sit back and apply a legal argument to any of this, we're legitimizing it. I mean, and that I think is the most harmful part about all of this, is that they're even doing jury selection. The fact that they're participating in jury selection in a case that we all know shouldn't be brought. The fact that every pretrial motion that should have been that Trump should have won has been basically tossed aside. There is no fair trial here. And that, I think, is the most frustrating part, is that all of this is a show. And Trump has to participate in it because he has no choice. But it's not real. None of this is real. It's all fake. It's all fake to hurt Trump. And we're sitting here trying to be smart legally about it. And tonight on the Twitter space, we'll talk about that. But we could be as smart as we want. This defies legal logic. It defies procedure. It defies even law. None of this has to do with law. So what we're doing is we're basically, if we were doctors, we'd be performing surgery on nothing. Nobody. We're wasting time and trying to act like it's something real. And I think that's what offends me the most, right? How could you even participate or win a case that isn't even real when we know from the get-go that the whole point of this is political? Regardless if we get a verdict in favor or against Donald Trump, the judge still has to make the sentence. Nothing is going to come out of this that the public is going to accept as fair, whether you're for or against Trump, right?
You're 100%. That's exactly correct. I mean, think about it. This should have never happened. And New York, the DA, instead of going after Trump, why doesn't he just focus on the actual crime that is happening in that city? Because the crime there is going through the roof. People are getting stabbed, getting punched in the face left and right, day and night. And you want to go after Donald Trump for a matter that was written down in a ledger that is not wrong? Give me a break. The people in New York, I pray, are smarter than this. All right, they have to be, because if not, I guess they deserve to have Alvin Bragg as the DA. But this is a total sham of a trial. And frankly, Donald Trump even stepping into a courtroom today, that is also, that in itself is unrealistic, and frankly, it should have never happened.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this is just the beginning. We still have 2 federal cases pending. We still have this Georgia case. And it seems like the further we go, the worse it all looks for them. But nevertheless, all of this is still out there. Trump still has to appear. He has to be spending money and time and all of these ridiculous things. And the fact that Alvin Bragg is bringing this now first, because you remember, when he brought this case, everyone's like, no, I wish you would have waited because we got these 2 strong federal cases. We got this case in Georgia. They thought this was going to be the weakest case. And now here we are. Trump is the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party, and they're bringing this case, not the classified documents case, as they call it, not the whatever I don't even know what they're calling the DC case about the January. I don't even know what they're calling that, because I'm not even, I don't, as a lawyer, maybe I should research. I don't understand what the DC case is other than a witch hunt. And then, of course, we have this Georgia case where you already have the special prosecutor kicked off the case. You already have all kinds of problems going on there. So the fact that you're bringing this case now makes me at least hopeful that maybe the wheels are starting to fall off this lawfare. And maybe if Trump somehow avoids a conviction in this case, which, look, I believe in the justice system as a lawyer. I don't believe in this case as a lawyer. And if people are hopeful that Trump is going to be found not guilty in this case because of the weak facts around this case, that they didn't listen to what we just said. This isn't a legal case. None of the arguments that anybody's going to make or what the jury's going to hear has any basis in law anyway. So if anybody's going to be surprised that a jury of 12 New Yorkers in a place that doesn't like Donald Trump finds Donald Trump guilty of something that he didn't even do, if that's going to surprise you, you're not paying attention. Sure, it'll go to appeals and it'll go to other courts. But meanwhile, the media will say he's a convicted felon. A convicted felon can't be president. And guess what? They'll try to impeach him if he wins the election in November based on the fact that he's a convicted felon. Yep. They're using this as political ammunition to hurt Trump. So nobody should be surprised about the outcome of any of this. But let me ask you, and we'll end on this, because this is taking the legal part out of this. Okay. Where is the hope for the people who feel like, where does it end? What happens if he gets convicted? What is the good news for people who love Donald Trump and knows he can save America and sees what's going on in the world and knows that Iran is attacking Israel and Russia's in Ukraine and China's threatening Taiwan and the world is becoming increasingly less stable and inflation's going up, our economy is on the verge of collapse. I mean, people are paying attention to this and they're scared. And then they know that the man who can fix all of this, who's proven that he can fix it before, which is why he's polling better than Biden in almost every single swing state. How can we give people hope that Donald Trump will be allowed to be president with all of this going on?
Well, that's a great question. And the more this witch hunt continues and the more that the political persecution of Donald Trump continues, I think more and more people are going to realize it. You have people now that they may not have voted for Donald Trump, but they may not even like Donald Trump, but they see what is going on, that the DOJ and just the Justice Department in general. When I say that, I mean anywhere from state courts to federal prosecutors, state prosecutors, whatever it is, all the Justice Department. It seems like they're all out to get him for, because they're afraid that what's going to happen when he comes into power and when he becomes president. And they better be scared, because what is going on right now with him and over the last year and a half, with all this political persecution that's happening to him, where he's being charged with crimes that he never committed and that nobody else ever committed, but we got to do something. They are going to get their I don't want to say retribution, because that's me, but they are afraid of what's going to happen, and they probably should be.
No, well, everybody needs to not be complicit. They need to stick with their resolve to get Trump elected and make sure it happens. I mean, that's the thing. Guys can't be apathetic and don't fall for the fake news. I guess that's the best thing we can tell them. But it's going to be exciting. We'll keep talking to you, David, as the trial goes on. We can explain to people what's going on with jury selection. You're right. It's going to take forever. And then, of course, then you have pretrial motions. And then, I mean, this is going to be a circus that's certainly going to capture the attention of a lot of people, when honestly, we should be paying attention to a lot more important things that are very serious for the world. But hey, at least we have you to keep us educated on what's going on in this political circus that we call a trial in New York City. Thank you so much for being on the show. How can people find you if they're like, man, I cannot wait to hear from David again, where can they go and find more, hear from you, see all the shows you're on? You're on all kinds of great shows. You're on Fox. Where can people go and find you?
Well, Matt, I appreciate that. So you can go on my Twitter. It's David Gelman, Gelman ESQ. And that is where all of my appearances are. You can also go on the website at gelmanlawfirm.com.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show. And we look forward to talking to you real soon on the X Space tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Looking forward to it, Dave.
David, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we have General Michael Flynn joining us. Probably one of the first people to fall victim to this political prosecution. And he is telling his story in a new film, and we're going to talk about that right after this break. So don't go anywhere. David Pollack Show. We'll be right back.
With today's economic environment, it's never been more important to secure your hard-earned wealth for you and your family's future. FinSec Life works to offer industry-leading customer service to help successful individuals and businesses protect their wealth. Whether it's a business succession plan, estate liquidity, or a variety of life and long-term care policies, FinSec Life can help deliver peace of mind, knowing that if something happens, you or your company is taken care of. Visit finseclife.com. That's FINSEC life.com. Securities offered through Valmark Security Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Valmark Advisors Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. FinSec Life is a separate entity from Valmark Securities Inc. and Valmark Advisors Inc.
Hey friends, David Pollack here. If you're craving the best soft serve ice cream around, Topper's Creamery's got you covered. Serving the Apopka community for over a decade, Topper's is known for the finest old-fashioned custard-style soft-serve ice cream in a variety of flavors, from their French vanilla bean to exciting specials like German chocolate cake. But the experience doesn't end there. Be sure to grab a fresh baked waffle cone or a sundae topped with my favorite, the fresh baked brownies. They even offer pup cups for your four-legged friends. So hurry in to Topper's Creamery in Apopka, South 512 Hunt Club Road. Make sure to tell them David sent you.
Hello, Patriots, listen up. It's time to wake up and smell the freedom. Beard Vet Coffee is here to fuel your American spirit. This isn't just coffee. It's a battle cry in a cup, a declaration of love for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Crafted by the hands of those who've walked the walk, talked the talk, and, grown the damn beard. Vet-founded, vet-focused, and beard-operated. This is coffee with a mission, a purpose, and a testament to the unyielding American spirit. It's a tribute to the tireless resolve that courses through the veins of our great nation. This is the taste of victory, the flavor of freedom, the coffee that stands as firm as our belief in America's destiny to lead and never to kneel. Beard Vet Coffee is more than a brand. It's a legacy steeped in the principles that make America great. It's for those who stand with pride under the stars and stripes, who uphold the values that light the torch of liberty for the world to see. So, are you ready to supercharge your day the American way? Beard Vet Coffee is not just a choice. It's a declaration of independence from mediocre mornings. Bold, brave, unbound. Brewed for the American patriot. Beard Vet Coffee. Make your mornings great again.
President's former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleading guilty today to lying to the FBI.
Flynn knew exactly how the system worked. He knew exactly what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding. They had to get rid of Flynn.
There was a moment where I just felt like I was drowning. So I'm in there with these other political appointees. They're all supposed to go in there and tell what they believe to be the truth. What they did was they took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
President Obama said, but I do have one specific recommendation. Stay away from Michael Flynn. He's bad news.
Over time, instead of being pounded down below the surface of the ocean, we started to fight. I'm now above the surface.
Joining me now, and I'm very, very excited for this guest. Joining me now is Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Now, this guy has a resume. I don't even know if I can live 3 lifetimes and even do half of it. He's the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the agency that's in charge of all the intelligence agencies, and we'll talk about that. He was Donald Trump's national security advisor. He is a national best-selling author, several books, holds 3 master's degree, and I believe an honorary Juris Doctorate degree. This guy has done everything. He's captured the hearts of America. He's on a tour right now across the country like a rock star, promoting the new movie, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, whatever the cost. It is my honor to have you here, sir. General Flynn, welcome to the David Pollack Show.
Hey, thank you, David. Thanks for having me. To your audience, I really appreciate it. And just spending some time with me and you today. It's great.
You have protected this country for your entire career. And the thing the media tells about you is something that I think is at the heart of what I think is so compelling to people, that somebody like you, a general, a decorated general who's defended the nation their entire life, they can go after you for doing basically nothing. And I think that's really what's at the heart of how everybody feels about all of this. And I think that's what's so compelling about your story, is that they see this hero, somebody who's literally given their whole life in defense of this country. And then the agencies that he led turned against him. I mean, I don't think people can understand that. Can you talk a little bit about how you go from leading the intelligence community to become a target of it while serving in that role?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think for people to understand what we're involved in, all Americans and all your audience, your great audience, people need to understand that we are going through a transformation of America, intentionally and purposely, and it's being led by a socialist element on the left. The Democrat, I always say, in fact, in my movie, people can go to flynnmovie.com, but in the movie, I talk about, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I went into the White House as a Democrat. So, I don't really care about politics. I care about this country. In the past, it was Republicans and Democrats and big government, little government, big tax, a lot of taxes, no taxes, all the kind of, the nonsensical political garbage that we've always had, thrown at us over decades. I didn't look at things like that. I saw what was happening to America, particularly at the tail end of my career, but I saw it to a degree while I was in, but I was always very strong and very forthright, very honest in my assessments and how I provided feedback to my leadership, my leadership being a commander in the field, or to the director of national intelligence, or to the Secretary of Defense, or to a president of the United States. And I do address some of that in the movie itself, answering your specific question. I think that we're going through this massive transformation. I think people need to understand that, and we're in one of those places where if let me just pause for a second while I'm on with your audience. If you see stuff in the window in the background, it's because I'm in one of these wrecked vehicles. I'm in an RV, and we're actually literally traveling from one city to another, showing this film. We just left Savannah at about 7 o'clock this morning, Savannah, Georgia. We're heading to Greer, South Carolina, and then from there we go on to Nashville, Tennessee. But I think that what we're facing is really it's not something that most Americans have really ever had to think about or had to worry about, and yet here we are. So the bigger question is, why me? Why did they go after me? And so what did and why did America look at this and say, there's just something not right here? Because I had just come out of the administration, the Obama administration. I hadn't been out of the Obama administration more than a little over a year, and the Obama administration, who appointed me, Obama himself, who appointed me twice to different positions, very senior positions, one being the director of DIA, and then I had just finished a security clearance update, which is a vetting of your entire life again to maintain my security clearance. I just finished that, and I'm under investigation. that the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the White House, because we now know it's the White House that initiated it, because if you go to the Durham report, 3 August 2016 is when Brennan briefed Obama on this fake dossier that was inserted by done by the Hillary Clinton campaign. So all of it was based on a lie. The American people, using their God-given common sense, David, were able to figure that out pretty quickly, despite what the media narrative was this coordinated Mockingbird media, right? Mockingbird media is very real. So the coordinated Mockingbird media, in coordination with the intelligence community, in coordination with the White House, they purposely did this to destroy, to what I call to narratively assassinate me. And now what we see, David, is we see the Mockingbird media, along with the executive branch of the government and the intelligence community, trying to destroy Donald Trump. And so I happened to be the first target. The American people saw it through it, and we fought back. My family and I really want people to watch this movie, because the conversation that we're having right now, a great clarity will come from watching this film, because I lay out in fair detail. It's a 2-hour documentary feature, sort of a feature film. It's a great. It's very well done. The director that we had was a Hollywood guy, and I purposely chose him because he had a different narrative that he was focused on. And so, the detail that we provide in this film goes through all of this, the why, how did the American people come to my rescue, my family, and how my entire family, it's like a lot of people in America, people in your audience, David, I guarantee there's somebody listening to this podcast who has been through some sort of prosecution or persecution or bad time in their life, and they needed people to come to their assistance, and nobody did, right? You were alone out there on an island, so to speak, and you were just hoping that somebody realized that you needed help. And the American people never gave up on me. And I think partly was because when they looked at me and they looked at my family, and me in a collective sense, when they looked at my family, and those that really took a hard look, my family is a family of service to this country. My family legacy goes back to World War I. Before that, we came over on a boat from Ireland. So we go back to World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, all the wars. I still have a brother serving. I have a son who still serves. My whole family is about service to country in uniform. And my father, World War II Korea vet, retired sergeant from the Army. We're not some big, West Point, high mucky muck family. We are grassroots Irish, public school, went through a public university type family. So it wasn't like, we have all these things, right? People looked at us and said, man, this family is just, there's something good about this family. And these animals that we were up against, and they are animals, and I use that word very precisely, these animals that we faced in the media, in the intelligence community, and within the deep state, both inside and outside of government, they will do everything to destroy individuals who are incorruptible or who they cannot corrupt. And that's why they're still going after Donald Trump. They've made Trump derangement syndrome an art form. Orange Man bad, all the stuff. I just pushed something out today about these former admirals and generals and former secretaries of defense. Some of them probably worked for Trump that joined on what's called an amicus brief going up to the Supreme Court. Why? What? They want Trump in jail. What has he done wrong? I'm digging. I'm looking into everything, and I'm saying to myself, God, what did this man do wrong other than run for president and win? And that's where I stood shoulder to shoulder with him in 2016. I've had my issues with Trump. He and I have a great relationship. It's like, what you're hearing out of me right now, how I'm talking to you and your audience, that's how we talk to Trump. This is not I'm not, some wallflower. You don't get to the levels that you get to, nor do you get chosen to be a close personal advisor of Trump without having this kind of a a dialogue and a discourse. You know, you have to be blunt because we are in a time where things are really serious. I would say, because people go, well, you know, Trump let him go, and he did let me go. I described that in the movie, and how that came about. Since all that time, because that was really early on in Trump's entry into Washington, D.C., which was a place that he didn't really know that much about, particularly government. Since that time, I can tell you that between he and I, in the last 5 or 6, 7 years, let's just say last 5 years, we've both probably lived 5 years, 5 lifetimes apiece in just the last 5 years. I mean, you know, you'd be stupid to not learn from what is happening to us. And now, as I'm going back to your audience and saying to your audience, look, audience, I mean, you discern, you judge what you see and hear. Don't worry about the media. Don't worry about the mainstream media outlets that are owned by very, very left-wing socialist Marxist people. Okay, like, and when we say George Soros, okay, everybody knows that name. But I mean, these people own outlets, you know, and I won't go through and name all of them because there's actually more than I like to, you know, really be aware of, but there's a lot of them. And they do continue to spew this hatred. I mean, you see the new narrative, and maybe I'll stop here. We can talk about this or anything you want to talk about, David. But this new narrative now is how the you know, some right-wing conspiracy to ruin or to usurp, a better word probably, to usurp the 2024 elections. There's now these right-wing groups that are going to usurp and undermine the 2024 elections, and they're starting to warn us about that. Okay, I saw 2 articles. I mentioned in both of them, and I mentioned in that I'm part of organizations that I'm not even a part of. So they're lying about me being part of an organization that I don't even think exists anymore to undermine the 2024 election, which is total BS. But they're putting this stuff out, and they're putting it out today. And some of these, maybe one of the organizations in these articles are tied to somebody, maybe in the Trump orbit. I don't know. But the articles are filled with innuendo and lies. And then, of course, what will happen is they get published in like a, and I'll just use it as an example. Whoa. You see, that's what happens when you turn, man. That's right. But they get published. Yeah, that's good. We're on the road. They get published. That's the potholes of Joe Biden. Okay.
Build
95.
Back Better is not better at all, is it?
Build Back Better's got to build back a lot of potholes, fill a lot of potholes on 95, a major highway. So, you know, an article like a Mother Jones is an example. That's just an example. You know, puts out the article, or Associated Press, even more so. Associated Press puts out an article, and then the rest of them buy into it. And when they do that, those are the talking points. I know we're going crazy here, man.
It's fun.
I'm trying to. All right, that's good. I love it. That's why I'm on tour, right? I'm in an RV. We're going down the highway, right? But
this is real. This is not fake news.
No, it's not fake news. On the road again. So, you know, they put these talking points out, and then the parrots begin. And I think that there's a couple of narratives that are occurring that we have to be aware of. That, you know, so that's one. A right-wing conspiracy led by a couple of organizations, and they'll throw my name in there just because they, you know, because I'm a recognizable name, and the media has narratively assassinated me by calling me a right-wing Christian nationalist, you know, and they've even called me a Nazi, right? I mean, which that means that they don't understand what a Nazi is. A Nazi was actually a socialist, right? So right wing, I grew up as a Democrat. I just recently changed parties just because I moved to Florida and it made it easier. But you know, I'm about as liberal as they get. Hell, I served in the military. Wow, this is really wild. This is really wild. This is great. I served in the military under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I didn't have any issues with it as long as as long as people could meet a standard. And you know, I mean, so I'm a pretty liberal guy. I do have a red line though, and I want your audience to know what my red line is. My red line is anybody that messes around and abuses children. Okay, so that's my red line, and I think that's a proper red line to have, and I'm okay with that. I'm actually, I carry that as a badge of honor. On the battlefield, you never state a red line. It's foolish because you're giving away intent. But in life, you know, and as a human being and as a father and a grandfather, maybe that's what I should have asked you to add in my bio. I'm a loving father, married to a beautiful woman for the last 43, almost 44 years. We've been together for almost 50. It's anybody who's a traitor or treason or whatever the bullshit is that they have spewed. You don't meet somebody at the age of 13 and stick with them for the rest of your life. And I'm also a loving grandfather. So a red line for me is anybody who abuses a child. And that's, when we look at, and that kind of stuff, that goes both sides of the line, right? So all this labeling that they've done of me, David, to describe me as something that I'm not, they do that in the media. Most of these people, in fact, I would say 100% of them have never even met me. You can mention a name. I would say maybe I met them. I don't even know these people in the media, but they don't know me. They just take something and they go from, like a lot of people, and maybe you've done it. They go from, well, he pled guilty and he had to be pardoned. They jump over the fact, and this is why I did this movie. The movie's powerful. Not one, and many tears shed during this movie because it's a very emotional story of survival. But during the investigation of my case, we fought for this, and we got, and there was an investigation done while I was still being persecuted. They found so much evidence of just out and out lying and withholding of evidence. Do you know how many people in the country are in jail right now that are innocent? Thousands and thousands. As a national security advisor of the United States of America, if there was anything that I would do, I would go and dig into the rear ends of the people in the Department of Justice to stop that, right? To stop that kind of the conviction rates, right? The conviction rates in this country are 97, 98%. You don't get incentivized in the Department of Justice or in the FBI for discovering the truth. They don't promote you for discovering the truth. They promote you for getting convictions. So you're going to get convictions at all costs because that's how you're going to get promoted. That's how you're going to get a nice end of year big government bonus. Believe me, there's a reason why people that are serving in government at some of these senior executive levels, and I'm not talking about political appointees, I'm talking about government employees who aren't supposed to make that, they don't make that much money. They don't make enough money to buy Jaguars. They don't, come on. But if you go to some of these government parking lots, some of these agencies, and there's a lot of Jaguars, there's a lot of Ferraris, there's a lot of, you start seeing those, it's like, hey, I drove a Buick Park Avenue 1986 when I was the director of DIA because I was on the battlefield most of my life or in operational assignments most of my military career. But I also served in very strategic assignments as well. But I wasn't sitting around in Washington, D.C. for 20, 25, 30, 35 years, building up my coffers and looking at people like me or presidents of the United States and saying, we'll get rid of this guy. He'll only be around for 4 years, right? That's what this movie is about. This movie is a very, very powerful story of my journey through the deep state and how I got dragged down. I speak to military operations and endless wars, which is a very important part of this, to kind of get to the why Flynn. Why were they so afraid of Flynn? And then I go through the persecution, and then at the end we talk about hope, the outcome of hope. And I think that that's the most important part of it. And that's when I see and hear in the three places we've been to, Venice, Florida, Winter Haven, Florida, and Savannah, Georgia, which now it's been about 1,200 people that have watched it, maybe 1,400 people that have now watched the movie live with, and then I stay there to answer questions after. But that part of the movie is when you can hear people like, yes, I mean, clapping, and then they just, then just an outpouring of love at the end of the movie. It's been just phenomenal feedback, and we're posting a lot of that online. I'll be posting a lot of that on my social media, just like I'll post this interview.
Yeah, man, there's so much I could unpack from everything you just said, because
please do.
You're firing on all cylinders.
I need you to tape this down. Hey, hold on
Yeah,
one
yeah,
second.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, I need you to, can you tape this down? Tape that down. I mean, this is like, I'm standing there holding it, like, yeah. This is live, man. Let's play this all on your show. Let the folks know this. You can see me. You know what it's like? It's like I love the ocean. I love the ocean. This is my first real experience in an RV for this long. I've been in RVs before, but if for anybody that's ever been on a boat, in the on the ocean, and you kind of it's a little choppy, right? The water's a little choppy, or you got there's no spray hitting me in the face right now, but this is great because that's the way you feel. So when we walk off of this thing, you get those wobbly legs, like you get sea legs, they call them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, when we walk off here, we just stopped at a Circle K gas station, and I walked off, and I'm like I gotta steady myself. I'm like, it's just funny. But it's such a blast. We're having such a great time. So I'll turn it back to you. I'm sorry. I'm just any issues you want to address.
Yeah, no, I love this conversation, and yeah, it's like Jim Cantori in a hurricane at some point. It's like the camera's falling over your head. It's awesome.
That's great.
But it's real. I'm not going to get on the tangents of the reporters in the hurricanes. That weather fake news is a whole thing that I'll have to dedicate a whole show to, because it's hilarious.
Exactly.
But going back, there's so many things I want to ask you, but I know I want to be sensitive on time, so I'll hit the key issues. You mentioned you mentioned the people in Trump's orbit who've gone to jail, and you've mentioned Trump himself have been targeted, and then you also talk about people going, yes, and then when you watch the movie, there's so much here, and I want to get to the heart of, I think, you talk about America being on your side when you were facing what you were facing, and being your support structure, and the response to this movie being so compelling. And I look, I live on Main Street. I talk to people when I go to political events. January 6th is the things they want to keep talking. And they want to talk about January 6th.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot going on in the world right now. And then I'm always wondering, why do they want to talk about January 6th? What is it about January 6th in particular? It's the 2020 election. The 2020 election is on everybody's mind. And I don't think it's just because, a lot of people are upset the outcome of the 2020 election. I think people are a little uncomfortable and almost horrified.
Well, the election was not run as a fair election. I mean,
Right.
Let's face it. I'm not an election denier, right?
Right.
I've been called that too. I don't deny that we have elections. What I deny is that our elections are fair. And if everybody felt like it was a fair outcome, like you watch a basketball game, the March Madness, right? Everybody's paying attention to March Madness for the basketball game. You see a good game, you see a fair game. The refereeing's good. The refs on the court, they don't change the course of the outcome. Okay, they let the players play, and the best team wins, the best coach team wins, the best organized team wins, all that kind of stuff. And Americans will go, wow, if I was a Connecticut or a Purdue a fan, I'd say, my team got beat, man, but it was a great game. They had a great season, but Connecticut was just better, or whatever, whatever the outcome. And Americans we feel that way when we have any kind of contest, right? We did not feel that way after 2020. Now, let me just stop there for a second, David, because to remind your audience, because I was in the middle of it, in 2017 or the 2016 election, President Donald J. Trump got beat up for 4 years for about election interference that they screamed about. And who was the election interferer? It was Russia,
right?
Which turned out to be total BS. It was a lie, and it was actually promulgated by Hillary Clinton and her campaign. And yet they dragged out election interference nonsense for 4 years. But then all of a sudden you flip the cards, you flip the table, and now it's me or you or any of us saying, hey, this election didn't seem like it, can we do an audit? Can we check into can we look under the rug? Can we look underneath the hood here? And they're like, they're running everybody into jail. They're putting people away. January 6th itself, I think January 6th partially and in a big way, and it was masterfully done. I think it was a setup. I mean, I listen to people like Congressman Clay Higgins out of, I think, Louisiana, great law enforcement professional, and now congressman. Every time I've heard him, it's like, wow, man. I mean, what he's been able to come up with in terms of evidence of just what the FBI's role was. You can't have, like I heard him say, there's over 200, there's over 200 FBI sources that were there on January 6th. Well, they didn't just show up on they didn't get a call that morning and go, hey, can you show up to the Capitol? That had to be planned. That many had to be planned, where they were going to be positioned, what they were going to be directed to do. I mean, that kind of planning doesn't happen in like a vacuum, nor does it happen in 24 hours. So now you start to look back and go, okay, so how long was the FBI actually planning to do this? Because the election had only happened, 2 months prior. So how long had they been thinking about doing something on the Capitol where the FBI was going to be inserted to then cause people like we've seen people, we've seen the Epps guy, Whisper, right? The Sullivan guy, who was a member of Antifa, got arrested, right? But he was changing clothes and stuff. I mean, you got all these kinds of weird things that happened, and you look at it, you go, something's just not right here. And now what we're starting to learn, like we learned with me, right? Like we learned in my case. What we learned in my case is that I didn't do anything like they said I did. But the media keeps pounding that message. So a lot of people in America go, well, Flynn pled guilty. He was guilty of something. He had to have been guilty of something. I was guilty of nothing. Those people on January 6th, I have no time for anybody that's not part of the government, that wasn't a source, that climbed up a wall, busted a window, and went in. I'm not, but nobody, I don't think we've had anybody convicted of treason. I don't think we've had anybody convicted of subversion or espionage or anything like that for this. It's been
insurrection.
Or insurrection. Thank you for I lost that word, or insurrection. I mean, I don't think we've had anybody. So what is going on here? And because I will tell you, at the Winter Haven event that we just had, a gentleman and his wife came up to me, very nice couple, older couple, probably around my age. I'm 65. And they said that the FBI visited them the other day. And I said, why did they visit? And I said, well, because we were at we were up in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. I said, did you break anything? Did you do it? No, we were out on the side. We were outside of the Capitol. We never even went into the Capitol. But the FBI's visiting them, and they wanted to ask him questions. So the guy was smart enough, and he said, well, and he told me that I was in his, I was the one that kind of reminded him, not being there with him and his wife. When the FBI showed up, they were like, oh, no, we don't want to go through what General Flynn went through, because they lied about me. They lied. The FBI lied. Okay? The FBI lies routinely. So you can show that clip if you want. And they did. And so I said to the guy, I said, make sure you get a lawyer. I mean, now you got to pay for a lawyer, right? So that's where the conviction rates start going up, because people can't afford lawyers. I can't afford lawyers. I mean, I got to pay. I got to get lawyers now because I'm still being subpoenaed. I was subpoenaed for the Georgia case, right? I met Fannie Willis. I met the guy that is her boyfriend. He's the one that questioned me. And it's just insane. I mean, what country are we in when we have a sense by the majority of Americans that they're afraid of their government? We have people in this country that are afraid of their government. Because why? They attack the top, President Donald J. Trump, General Michael Flynn, and they just say we're gonna crush you, and then they attack the grassroots, January 6th, right? And they're as we've heard, I think he's either the attorney general or the director of the FBI is talking about we have another 1,000 cases. And I just met one the other day, sadly, Florida. They seem to be going after Florida. They seem to be going after Texas, as though those are where all the, their version of the insurrectionists must live. Why? It's because Florida and Texas are really critical political states in our electoral college system. And they want to put the fear of God or their God into all of us and make us give up, make us quit, make us shut up and go away. And that's why I did this movie. That's why I'm talking to you right now, David. We can't, that's why you have the audience that you have, because people are hungry for honesty and the truth. And then I was on a show the other day, and the guy says, well, we're not sure where to find the truth, and like questioning me, then I said, well, you know what? Then I don't need to be on your show, because if you don't believe me, then don't have me on your show, because Christ, if you don't believe me, then why should your audience believe me, right? So I like me or not, believe me or not, what I believe is what I believe to be the truth. And I have I'm blessed to have an abundance of vast experiences in government, in intelligence, in the defense industry, or in defense, not the industry so much, but in defense, in combat, 5 years in combat, overseas. I've been on 6 continents, and I've been the national security advisor of the United States of America, even albeit for a short period of time. But there's things that I did while I was there. I got read on to the nuclear codes as an example. So I understand that system, because while I was the senior intelligence officer in the Pentagon, I actually had a responsibility for that part of the process down in the bowels of the Pentagon. So, I mean, there's a vast array of experiences that I have that, again, I'm blessed to have them. I worked hard to get them. They don't sprinkle fairy dust on you and, poof, you're a general, right? You work your tail off to get there. The 3 master's degrees that you mentioned, right? I mean, so I study my chosen profession. I live my chosen profession, and I love my chosen profession. And my chosen profession is about national security of the United States of America.
Can we pause on that for a second, General?
Yeah.
Because this is such an important point that I want to make sure the audience understands. Because look, I sit around in groups of people in rooms and on Twitter Spaces. A lot of people say what you're saying, right? Oh, January 6th, it seemed like an op. The election, there was some questionable things that happened in the election. A lot of people say it. But what people need to understand, you served as the chief intelligence officer for the United States of America, essentially, when you were the...
As a national security advisor, you kind of have a purview of all that stuff.
What's so important with that is, throughout your career, you probably have more knowledge about how these things work, how intelligence operations are led, how all of this is put together. You've done it for your entire career. So when General Flynn tells you that January 6th was suspicious, when General Flynn tells you that the election seemed suspicious, those instincts and those insights are based on a career of training and experience. There's not, I don't think, a more credible person to tell people, hey, this is different. This based on all of your experience. And that's why it's so important. This is about as credible of a source as you can get, telling you that the things that you believe, there's validity to it. You're validating people's legitimate concerns. And I think that's what's so important.
I'm sorry, because I'm going to have to jump here. But one of the things that I want your audience to understand before I go, and I appreciate you saying that. This is my life. I mean, some people get up in the morning and they know how to do whatever they know how to do, and I don't, whatever they do, and it's fine, and it's admirable and it's noble, whatever people decide to do. This is what I've decided to do. This is what I have trained to be in this world, and that's why I'm still out on the road now. And that's why I'm showing this movie. This is why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, because this matters so much to me, and I study these issues. And in many cases, I am a subject matter expert on certain things. I'm a subject matter expert on opposing forces and strategy. And when I look at things, then I look at them, through the lens of facts and I look at things through the lens of making assumptions and then scenarios. So, this scenario, that scenario, what can we do? And I'm not going to sit here and BS you. I'm going to tell you what I believe. You can believe it or not. I can take it for what it's worth. People can go, well, I heard General Flynn say, and somebody's going to go, well, General Flynn's full of it, man. He committed treason. Okay, believe what you want. It doesn't matter to me. What I believe is our country is at risk right now. We are absolutely at risk. And if we don't do something about it, David, like this conversation that we're having, you're doing something about it. I'm doing something about it by traveling around the country to wake people up. And we're going to lose this country. And that's what I know. And we have a federal government that is so tyrannical right now. And we're not like at a precipice of, go this way to socialism or go this way to continue this constitutional republic experiment in democracy. No, we're down this path already of socialism. We're already moving down that path because they hold the levers of power, and that's a dangerous thing. And can we recover from it? We can. So listen, David, I have to go. I will set this up again, and I thank you to your audience and thank you for your time. People can go to flynnmovie.com, sign up, look at where we're traveling around the country, join us on the tour. We really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and your audience. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Thanks for joining, and good luck on the tour.
Yep. God bless.
Guys, that is all the time I have for tonight. I don't know what else to tell you. Stay tuned. We'll keep covering this as much as we can and in depth. We'll keep bringing you the legal opinions. We'll bring you the political opinions about all of this, and we'll keep you posted. We'll keep talking about, obviously, if there's going to be a growing conflict in the Middle East. We have lots going on, lots to talk about. The election's still ongoing. We'll keep you up to date on all of this. But if you want to continue the conversation, make sure you go over to the X space tonight at 8 p.m. over on Twitter, X, whatever you're calling it. We're going to continue this conversation. Also, make sure you go and check out the DCPatriot.com, where you can find all of the latest news relating to all of this. It's revolutionary journalism, and you need to go check it out. No fake news there at all. And remember, if you want a good night's sleep, go over to mypillow.com, use promo code Pollock, and save up to 60% across various product lines. I'm a big fan of the dog beds. Watching my dogs are big fans of the dog beds. So go check those out. And remember, if you're going to beervet.com, use promo code David. Save yourself 10% because in Joe Biden's economy, who can't use some extra money right now? That's all I got for you guys tonight. We'll see you same time, same place next